Socially distanced. Hi, welcome today. We are so glad to have you here today. This is our first live audience that we've had for one of our programs, and we also have people who are joining us live online. So we are glad to have you and hope that you'll tune in again for either other live programs that you'll come here. The people in the audience are socially distanced. But you can also watch us on YouTube and you can watch us on Facebook, any of our programs that we have. So today we're going to be talking about old businesses of Anniston, and there's no one better to talk about old businesses of Anniston than Tom Mullins, who has been here at the library for almost 52 years. He probably remembers a lot of the old businesses of Anniston himself. Working down here in downtown Anniston. So I am going to turn the program over to him. Tom?
Thank you, Teresa. Well, this is the first program of in-house people at the library during the Corona era, and I'm glad to see this crowd here today. Teresa asked me several months ago to get a program up, and I've done schools and churches and everything like that, so I thought I'd do old businesses. Now, you know how many old businesses have been in Anniston, or businesses over the years? Plenty. Am I going to touch on all of them? No. And if I don't talk about your favorite business, I'm sorry. Maybe another program we can get together and do other businesses. The first one I want to talk about, when I first got to the Alabama room, this is one of the first businesses I come across in doing some research. Excuse me if I don't say it right, but it's Klepsig Heating. If I don't say that right, I'm sorry. This business was located at 2022 West 10th Street. The head of this was Peter Klepsig, and doing research on him, he came here during the building of Camp McClellan in 1917. He liked the area, stayed here, and built up his business. He unfortunately died in September of 1931, and his family sold the business in 1936, and it became Anniston Heating and Plumbing Company. Another shot of it. Now we're on West 10th Street. Does anybody know what that building is behind the power pole there? Yep, Miller, you got that. That is the old Opera House. And you can see it was right behind, Klepsig was right behind it. Remember this picture, we may go back to it in a minute. This second business, I think everybody knows. Who all ever shopped at Wikle Drugs? I did. Everybody in the room did. This was started by J.L. Wikle, of course. One of the oldest businesses in Anniston. Started around 1879. You can see this is a picture. No building on the left of it as you look. Horse-drawn carriage, horses everywhere, and Noble Street looks to be dirt. So that was in the very beginning of Anniston. Here's a little more current picture. It's not a very good one, but it's one that we had in our collection, straight on view, and you can see a car there on the right. Dr. Wikle died. I'm adding a little genealogical gem to this, Ruth. He died in July of 1940. He's buried up here at Highland Cemetery on 10th. Was there what now? People live upstairs. The question was asked, was it dwellings upstairs? Did people live there? I am not sure. He could have lived there, I don't know. I think one time he lived at the Anniston Inn. Yep. Next, who remembers Anniston Manufacturing? Cotton mill. 2 people? Please. This was located at 12th Street and the railroad tracks. Look at that building. Pretty impressive. It's no longer with us. I see 3 stories on one side, 2 on the other. There's a bell tower and a chimney. This was one of the major employers of people in Anniston. Here is a view, pretty good being close to the railroad tracks. They could load and unload their product. The train would take it away. Like I said, this was a cotton mill. And it was torn down in the last 10 years maybe. I love this Coleman shoe shop. We had one picture of this store. It was located at 10 West 10th. Notice everything's on West 10th going down. Isn't that good advertising right there? A car like a shoe. And there is Coleman shoe shop sign behind this shoe car. I was unable to determine if that is Mr. Coleman. I just don't know. I couldn't determine that. Unfortunately, he died in May of 1953, and he's buried down at Sylacauga. So he must have moved off at some point. It was sold in 1933 and became the Blue Ribbon Shoe Shop. I don't know if, I don't remember that. This is a little before my time, Teresa. Yeah. I chose this business because it's been in the news lately. Texaco service station, 33 West 10th. Who has bought gas down there? Danny? Mary Libba? I never did, but I'm sure my dad did. The reason I picked this, just in the last year or two, it was cleaned up, repainted, and was in a movie that was shot here in Anniston. I think in the movie it was a Sinclair station. Yes, Danny?
My great uncle, Jay Denman, worked there.
Did he?
A long time.
Yeah, good, good. 2 of the main people there, here's a picture, was Jesse Triplett and Bob Lipham. I don't know if any of y'all, Mary Libba, did you know either one of those gentlemen?
I knew the daughter Triplett.
They're okay. The 2 men on the right are Mr. Triplett and Mr. Lipham. That store closed in June of 2001. Mr. Triplett unfortunately died back in August of 1958, and Mr. Lipham died in February of 1981, and they are both buried up at Edgemont. I have names of these people on the picture. If after the program we come up, you can see them. Young China. Anybody here ever eat there? Yeah, yeah. I've even eaten at Young China. Mother and Daddy would take us down there, I think on Sundays after church, and we'd eat. My first Chinese food. Charlie Lee started this. Did anybody know Charlie? This business opened in 1941, like I said, on West 10th. In the mid to late 60s, I could never get an exact date, it moved to 709 Quintard. Mr. Lee, of all things, died in San Francisco, California. His body was brought back here, and he's buried at Highland Cemetery. The Klepsig plumbing picture, what's that building behind Young China there? The Opera House, again. And if you noticed in the Klepsig picture, there was a restaurant right there hard on the alley, and you can see the alley right over the parking meter there in front of Young China. So this spot had a place for restaurants. That building is no longer with us. This hotel, Stewart's and Welch's, was located at 608 to 12 West 15th. This served the black community. And over the years, I found numerous businesses in this one building. Found Army's Tailor Shop, Stewart's Restaurant, Stewart's Hotel, the Holiday Hotel and Restaurant. And it was also at one time called Blair's. As you can see, there's 3 entrances there. The businesses were on the bottom, and the hotel was up top where the awnings are. And I read at one point on a trip here, Martin Luther King stayed upstairs at this hotel. It was torn down in the 1990s after a fire. Holland Grocery. This was located at 104 West 18th Street. This was run by the Howard Holland family. I chose this picture because did anybody in the crowd know Kenneth Shaw? Mary Libba, you did? Ken Shaw called before he died and ID'd everybody in this picture. In fact, he is in the picture. I chose that because I could trust him. I met him many years ago, and I could trust his information. Yes, Mary Libba.
I was going to say, they would remember Cook Furniture Store. Ken worked there, and it was his father.
Yeah. Lady in the audience says that Ken Shaw worked at Cook Furniture Company. May be the way you know him. This is the inside view of Holland Grocery. And I looked at this, and it's well stocked. I think you could go in there and get just about anything you would want, grocery-wise. Now we're going way back. Noble Brothers Cartwheel Works. This was located at West 10th, down between Glen Eddy and Moore. Of course, you know the Noble Brothers were involved in every business aspect of Anniston, foundries, mills, and the sort. This is the way it looked. You can see it's boarded up here. There's another view of it. Quite a big complex. One thing I have found working with Russell Brothers photos and these type photos, those buildings, the top is unique to these buildings in Anniston. Now, I don't know if they're shaped that way because of ventilation or the way buildings were built at the time. I don't know. But several of the foundries and businesses had that type of roof. This was started around 1887. Woodstock Iron Company. This was located around 7th and 8th on Noble Street. It was an early industry to the city. You can see there's that same type of roof formation on that building there, on two buildings, matter of fact. You can see it was quite a complex, different buildings, I guess various works going on in each building. That looks a little more modern to me. It looks kind of space-like with those tanks and all. And I found out by the 1900, most all of the furnaces in Anniston had been shut down. And that business was gone. And I think we probably turned to soil pipe and that type of thing after that. I picked this one because there's another view. Look at those roofs, same type roof. Anybody ever heard of Swan Chemical, Southern Manganese? And I'm sure you've heard of Monsanto and whatever's out there now. I think it's Eastman. Theodore Swan come to this area in the early 1920s and started his business. Big complex again. And I think on those roofs, there's a building with the same type of roof. He ran it until 1935 when it was sold to Monsanto. One fact I found out, that they were making PCBs out there as early as 1929. Now, 1929, and you go up till whenever all that hit out there, that's a lot of years to be making PCBs and mainly dumping them in the water and on the ground out there. Mr. Swan died in February 1955 and is buried at Elmwood Cemetery in Birmingham. There's another view of that. There's that same type roof architecture. They even had, I've heard of mill villages around Anniston Manufacturing, but they provided housing for the workers out there, and that's just some of the housing that they had. Sir? Oh, were you? Well, there's some of them right there. See, and the date there is September 12th, 23. So he was here pretty early.
Parkland Avenue.
Yep. Poland Soap Works. Down here on West 10th, 114 West 10th. We didn't have an old picture of that, but that's the only picture in our system that we have. This was founded by Carter D. Poland in April of 1921. What I found out about this, they made soap and soap powders and soap products and served the whole southeast area. I found 11 states that they sent their products to. And that was based here in Anniston. That's a lot of products. This is more, to me, a regional business. And when I worked downstairs many years ago, I won't say how many, a lady would come in and check out books. Her name was Martha Poland. Did you know her, Mary Libba? Ma'am?
I do add.
Yeah, okay. Well, Martha would come in. I'm pretty sure she's out of this family. Mr. Poland died in May of 1961 and is buried at Edgemont. Anybody remember Anniston Marble and Granite Company? 901 Wilmer. Does anybody know where that is? Right there. That was right behind the library. I can vaguely remember this. You can see the monuments out front and all. Here's another view. This is downtown. If you're looking that way, that house, you'd be looking over the old Kitchens building. Calhoun Pickers there. Does anybody know what that long building is behind the billboards? No? Does anybody know what's on the other side of that building? Come on, people. The library. That is an old, what I found out was an old livery stable. And over the years, Frank Jones had a dance classes in there. And upstairs at one time was the YMCA. When that was being torn down, I was fortunate enough to get in the building and just look around, and you could see some of the old exercise equipment still on the wall upstairs there. And the windows, if it was still up there, you could go. They were long, narrow windows where a horse could stick their head out and you would feed them. Remember, that was a livery stable. W.E. Box had this business, the Anniston Marble and Vault Company. He died in September 1958 and is buried at Edgemont also. I thought that was neat that the library was close by. Who did not use Stewart cleaners? I'm not going to ask who used them. Who did not use them? Doug Sr., Sam. I'm sure a lot of y'all knew them. Doug was a mentor of mine in the Alabama room when I got up here to work. They formed this business in January of 1940. In a little bit, we can go out that door and you look across the parking lot over there and that building is still there. This is one view of it. That picture right there, I found before Mr. Stewart died, Doug Jr., and I showed it to him. And he sat there and looked at it, and you know how he rubbed his head and all, you know. He said, you know, that panel truck, I love that old truck. And it looks sharp right there. I wished I had it. It'd be worth something today. But that business, the building's still there. In 2003, it was sold to the Begley Corporation, which I think has the Concord laundries here in town. And I don't know exactly what happened, but Stewart's business closed. Since I do these programs, I have a vested interest in Sears. I found Sears to be in Anniston at 3 different places over the years. Ruth, you're nodding your head. That is the first, 914 to 916 Noble. That opened in October of 1928. That building is still there. Fred Bryan was the manager at this store. Then in November of 1939, they moved to the northwest corner of 10th and Noble. That building is still with us. It's Economy Auto, I think, or Western Auto, whatever now. I like this picture. Look down Noble Street. Cars everywhere, people walking. This was the business district back then. Very busy, very busy. Then, in March of 1949, they moved further up Noble Street, North Noble, to 1702 Noble. Gordon Mallory was the manager there, and I picked this business. See the doors on the side there? My mother worked here until she retired in 1981, for 25 years. That door that you can barely see there on the side, if you go up those steps and right up there was the candy counter. And that's what I always liked. And when I was doing this, I put this together and I could remember the smell of the popcorn, and they had lights that heated the Redskin peanuts, the cashews and all that, and you could just smell that smell there. Mr. Mallory was the last, I think Gordon Mallory was out of the Mallorys here in Anniston. Mary Libby, do you know that? You think so? He died in June of 1993 and is buried over in Georgia. Sears moved to the mall, Quintard Mall, in the mid-'80s, and unfortunately now they're out of business, and the whole end where Sears was at has been demolished. Now that is the 15, I picked 15 businesses to look at. I had almost 30 pictures, I averaged about 2 a business. Like I said, there are many more I could have done. We don't have all afternoon to talk about them. Are there any comments or questions? Mary Libby, I'm sorry I did not do Lloyd's Bakery.
That's okay.
I should have, but I didn't. No questions? Okay, that's the program. Thank you for coming. This was the first one where we had in-house participation as well as online. And thank everybody for coming.